Let's continue here. What else do we have? 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 Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. So this is from Resident Advisor. Rebekah posts an open letter with for the music pledge against sexual harassment in the dance music. Together, we can bring the dance music industry back to its roots. Now, Rebekah, when she's not crying about the pandemic or trying to crowdsource her own opinion about playing during a pandemic, has essentially put herself front and center, right? Who would have guessed it, right? A big famous DJ deciding it's all about me, right? No gigs, no attention. So you get behind this kind of cause, right? Cause for against sexual harassment in the industry, but then plaster your face in front of all the preceding bits of press. And of course, here's what we have: a story via Resident Advisor. It says Rebekah has started an anti-sexual harassment campaign called hashtag for the music. The British DJ announced a new initiative in an Instagram post this week. She said, after deciding I would like to mentor people to help bring them in the industry, like, okay, great. Again, me. It became apparent that I was responsible to do this unless I stood up and tried to fight to make the industry a safer all around. The For the Music hashtag campaign starts with an open letter and petition at the change.org, right? Because policies really change with change.org, right? People change their action. You get a petition out there and suddenly men all over the dance music scene stop harassing. They stop putting their hands on women they don't know. They stop forcefully trying to pin women up against the wall. They stop taking advantage of up and coming producers and DJs. They stop charging exorbitant fees to up and coming promoters and DJs and whatever else it may be. That's what they do. Hashtag for the change, or what's for the music, whatever nonsense it is. Let's see what the petition has got so far anyway in terms of numbers. I'm sure it's probably exceeded its target, because anyone could bloody sign an email, a bloody petition. Again, only 3,000. Considering it's a petition where you just have to add your first name, last name, and email, that's pretty poor, isn't it? Right? An open letter to the dance music industry. Let's read what she says here. Hello, dearest dance community. It's me, your friend. I'm the woman. Behind the decks, the one you invite to conduct the show. I'm the person of color in the first row. Person of color. DJ Rebekah's a person of color. What? That's a person of color. What am I then? In this world that we live in now, what am I? Am I a person of color, or am I indigenous? Like, what am I? Am I like native? What am I then? If she's a person of color. Wow. Okay. Fair enough, man. Let's continue. She's a person of color, I guess, isn't it? Blah blah blah. What's good? Rebekah is insane, bro. She's nuts, bro. A person of color. I'm the artist liaison, the LGBTQ sound engineer, the migrant girl behind the bar. I guess she's just, okay. I don't ask much from you. This basically from the third person, I'm assuming, right? I don't much from you. I often complain. I love music and the long nights and the things. But tonight, I want you to know that when I put my dancing shoes on, I'm doing it for the music and nothing more. Okay. I say it's because it isn't the first time I've hit the decks and has faced sexism as I play the set. I say it's because it isn't the first time I've had to dodge through the wandering hands in the artist area, which insist on systemically trying to visit unconsenting places across my body as I do. You know what this sounds like? It sounds like one of those erotic novels, isn't it? That your mum reads, right? This is a bit weird, isn't it? Like, really, if you're trying to make a point about, sexual harassment within the dance music scene, maybe not. Don't try and sex it up, innit? I say it's because it isn't the first time I have had girls from my country are easy. I say it's because it isn't the first time I've been told to submit. I'll never work in this industry again. I say it's because it isn't the first time. So today I might remind you again. Okay, she's gonna keep talking in this weird voice. Can we just get to the actual statement about this thing? So the music industry has changed, and within this has its people. It's not the industry I came to be a part of, and my friend, this isn't the industry that you came here for either. Music was born from desire for a safe space, a place of freedom and love, for artistic expression, a place that stood for something. In music, we found purpose, a high calling, but somehow along the way, through our journey, we let DJs become gods, and suddenly they stopped becoming accountable for their actions. I don't say we. Is it a collective thing? Yeah, probably. I agree with the first bit. I think the safe space thing is definitely true. I think I've said this before, and someone pulled me up and said, "Oh, safe space. A cult can't be a safe space." Of course, it can be a safe space. I think you can hold out hope that you can create this little utopia for yourself, especially if you're a promoter or a club owner. There is a way to sort of purposely build and cultivate a community with a shared sort of belief, shared sort of outlook on the world that can then relate to being a safe space. Of course, there'll be occasions when some kind of snakes will crack through will kind of slip through the cracks, but for the most part, it is possible to maintain a certain kind of vibe in a club, in a space, especially with people with their tops off and running around naked and doing whatever they want to do. You can do that. It just takes a lot of effort and time. Now, of course, as the scene has grown and it's become more commercial, more regular, everyday folk have kind of seeped through the cracks and establish themselves, things can change, but I think that's definitely possible. It says here, rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment, unwanted attention, misogynist, and sex obstruction are at their what we encounter as we try to simply do our jobs. This is a price tag we're paying for it. That I would agree with to some extent. I just think it's an issue in nightlife in general. I think in general, nightlife can be problematic just because it's at night. People think they can get away with a lot more nonsense. I do think the more niche the scene gets, it's weird. I think the more niche the scene is, the more smaller of a kind of subculture it's serving, the more opportunity there are for bad actors to come in and take advantage of those that are in that scene, especially those who are kind of have some level of notoriety, some level of influence. They can use that to somehow coerce, manipulate, groom, whatever you may be called, people coming up in the scene. That's really an issue. It actually kind of scales from the smaller scenes to the really bigger scenes, right? The bigger scenes where you're just nothing but another pretty face behind a row of girls standing behind Solomon, and to one of the smaller sort of collectives that kind of put on nights at the yard, right? There's obviously going to be harassment and unwanted attention on both areas, but what's needed is like for the community within itself to sort of police itself, right? For everyone within this, yeah, especially if you're putting a night on, you should be aware enough of some of the bad actors that are in there and sort of making your way to sort of eradicate that kind of behavior, all those people within that scene. But anyway, let's go back to the RA article because she's going to keep waffling on here about mad stuff in it, right? So let's go back here. She's got 3,500 signatures. It says here, the Ford Music campaign starts with an open letter. It says we have our jobs, we have our careers, our credibility, our reputations is by speaking out. She said an open letter. She said, labeled promiscuous beings deserving of violence. We are told that our cuts and bruises mean nothing if aimed at those with gentle faces and high followings, but not anymore. We have stayed quiet and never went public, but not anymore. We tried to do it privately and found ourselves unheard, but not anymore. Why is she writing like this for? Can someone explain? Is it because she's writes her own music or something? Why can't she just write it normally? Why does it all sound like some weird women's march speech or something? Like, this is so bizarre. In the last weeks, again, it's probably maybe because it's just all coming from her own voice. Again, this is where it comes, that whole narcissism comes from in it, right? It's something that's meant to benefit women within a scene overall, but it's always coming from her point of view. So she's trying to show off her writing and artistic chops, right? I'm sure she's got comments underneath her picture saying, "Oh my god, I like the writing you did, was amazing, heart." And she's like, "Oh my god, thank you so much. I'm just getting back into writing actually because I'm not DJing too much." Like, oh, God almighty, she's insufferable sometimes, Rebekah, man. She's got a pure heart, don't get me wrong, but bloody hell, it's all about me. In the last few weeks, we've seen our community divided. It continues. Willful ignorance, slut shaming, and the mistrust of victim testimonies in the face of systemic and rampant abuse has left many of us questioning if those founding values of love and freedom that we all came for have finally been lost to a status quo which allows for abuse of power, which encourages and glorifies even. Yeah, I think that's true. I think Eric Murillo case is definitely a bit of a sobering one. It definitely showed that some people are much more forgiving if the person's got a lot of clout, if they're well known, if they're well liked, then whatever they do can be excused to some certain extent. And again, this isn't what Jack Master did. This isn't anything near it, right? This is actually somebody purposely getting girls allegedly drunk, getting them intoxicated, getting them high or whatever else happened, and purposely taking advantage of them sexually, right? That's what essentially was accused of. And he was in the process of being charged in the court of law for that before his untimely passing in Eric Murillo. So you can definitely understand why some women in the scene are like, what the fuck is going on? Especially when you see, people like Jamie Jones and stuff posting eulogies about this guy and saying he had these issues, right? Again, this isn't somebody that I don't know, got into a fight with somebody at a bar and pushed him and he smashed his head on the floor and he died, right, from a brain aneurysm. This isn't like some sort of like, this isn't that sort of vibe. This is somebody systematically taking advantage of young women, especially people that are coming up in the scene, and sort of like, flexing his influence and power with them to take advantage of them in a very sexually forward way, right? It's just again, thinking back on that whole story makes me just think like, wow, I can imagine though people actually legitimately excusing Eric Moreno's behavior. Mad, isn't it? So I continue here. It says, there are predators in our scene and this must not be tolerated any longer. We can no longer excuse the behavior of the high profile artists because they are high profile anymore. It says participants are encouraged to print out the For the Music poster or create their own and post a black and white photo of themselves. Of course, that's what she wants them to do. Of course, because it's a chance for her to post a picture of herself. Oh God, Rebekah's exhausting. So this is obviously the image of it on there, the whole text written on her account, and I'm sure she's got many other people probably lined up doing the same thing on there too. Let's actually check her accounts, who actually posted the hashtag. It's a bit cringe. Again, these sort of like open statements and hashtag things probably don't do anything to change people's attitudes and behaviors. I think it's something that kind of it actually goes beyond it goes beyond scenes. I think it does go beyond scenes. Like I said, this I'm sure does affect this. You saw it with Burger Records, right? They had a lot of issues with Burger Records with some of their labels, bands, but even some of the female-led bands, right, that were purposely turning a blind eye to some of the abuse that was happening there because they were unwilling to kind of jeopardize their position, right? I remember there was one particular band that knew that one of the other bands was taking advantage of a girl that happened to be underage, and they didn't want to say nothing because they didn't want to jeopardize their position on the label. Like just some purely disgusting, abhorrent things, right? Which again goes to show that there maybe is an issue in general in society with sexual assault and people taking advantage of women within scenes. Now, this might be a Jordan Peterson reason where he kind of argues that men and women haven't worked that long in the workplace, so there's bound to be some sort of issues going on because we've only been working in the workplace for, let's say, 40 years, right? And kind of like shared rooms and places. There isn't any sort of gender divide. Maybe there is some disparity when it comes to pay, but in terms of jobs, you're not necessarily working in women-only companies or women-only floors or men-only rooms. There is kind of people kind of mingling and kind of connecting in places, and you're spending 8 hours a day with people, and the lines get blurred. And I'd imagine even in nightlife, I'd imagine being a professional DJ, wandering in places, wanting connection, the lines get drawn, things get a bit messy, blah blah blah. It can get a bit mad, but still, I maintain we should always provide a safe space for people within our scene, especially women. You should take care of them, no questions asked. I've been in many different occasions and places, especially in clubs, especially in house parties, where the girls got a bit too drunk, got a bit too excited. People, some people in the room are wanting to take advantage, and I, along with some other of my friends, would be like, nah, let's put her in an Uber, let's send her home and stuff, because no one thinks that's a win. No one thinks that's a win, right? Getting with a girl that's completely out of her face just because you can. That's not what we should be doing. We should be teaching guys to obviously carry themselves better. We should obviously be teaching women too to obviously make sure they keep their head on a swivel and don't leave themselves in a position where they're essentially surrounded or around in a room full of strangers that they don't know, sharing drinks, doing all manner of stuff. That isn't the case, but we should be looking after each other in some way, shape or form. But again, do I think looking after each other is printing out a hashtag on a bit of paper and putting it in front of your beautifully made up face on a balcony somewhere, right? And writing a whole soliloquy essay thing that sounds like a speech, that sounds like some kind of weird prose that you'd see on Tumblr? Probably not. But again, it's a start, I guess, in some way, shape or form. Check out the petition if you want to. I'll link it in the show description for those of you that are interested.